Hey guys, Mrhappy here, and this is going to be a video guide for the Tam-Tara Deepcroft. It is the second dungeon in the game that is part of the main storyline. So you're probably going to run into it about level 16, level 17-ish, and you shouldn't have too much of a difficulty clearing it. Very similar to the Sastasha Sea Grot. It's really just, it's actually very similar in completion method to Sastasha. I mean, you don't have clever things like the clams as trash enemies. You really just have a lot of different kinds of enemies that you'll just run into in different packs. For example, you have these swarms here. You have the undead that you'll run into here. You also have imps. You have I don't even know what they're called, them lights, I guess I'll call them. I could call them one of many things, but for the most part, just lights. And really, as a tank, as you can see here, I'm tanking on a character that's not my primary. This is just for the sake of recording, really, because I didn't feel like, you know, doing the whole, I don't know. It's weird to explain. I explained it in the last video a little bit, but it's mostly because in Beta Phase 4, my character couldn't access the dungeon, so I had to make an alt, and this is where I am. So, as you can see, there's not too much you really need to know about these trash mobs right here. These ones hurt a little bit, and they take a while to run up to you, so you really need to be careful about aggro a little bit. And that's going to happen a lot in this dungeon, is you're going to start running into enemies that don't always run up to you immediately, or don't run up to you at all. And I'll point them out when you reach them and what are the different ways of handling them and what to do. So we're just clearing trash here. We're still clearing trash. These guys, probably the hardest hitting monsters in the dungeon, for as much as trash mobs go, are the undead. And some of them are melee, some of them are casters, as I was saying. So there isn't really too much to say. It's just these are all melee, so you don't have to worry about them. Now, that was a treasure coffer I just opened. If you haven't watched any of my other dungeon videos, we'll talk about those after this. This is considered the first boss. First, you have to kill that guy standing on the altar and these two imps. Not too difficult. The imps actually have very low HP. Actually, I take that back. All three of these enemies have pretty low HP. And you'll kill them pretty quickly. And as soon as you kill them all, be ready to tank this demon enemy. Now, that's really the only thing you need to know about this fight. There is one other mechanic of condemnation, and that was the red cone that you just saw right there. So as long as you avoid condemnation and your healer is watching your HP, there's really nothing to worry about in this fight. And it's actually a fight that will reoccur multiple times throughout the dungeon. So, you see, dodge to the left, dodge to the right, whichever's more comfortable for you. As soon as you beat that, you'll get some loot, you'll open one of those lasers, and you can move on. Now, you're going to start running into some different creatures here. As you can see, there's Diremites, and there's an undead here. Now, the undead are going to start doing a move called Overpower. You experienced it in Sastasha. There was an enemy there that did Overpower. Now, the trash mobs are doing Overpower, and it does actually hurt as a tank. So, you'll definitely want to sidestep that, even as a tank. And if you're a melee, definitely, I mean, you shouldn't be in front of the monster anyway, just in case you are, just sidestep it really quick. Now, this part, a little bit more interesting. This is where the part where you start running into ranged enemies. This pull in particular is not too difficult. Usually the ranged enemy here tends to walk away and then aggro from behind the wall and then run directly to your mages, so it actually runs into tank range very often. And other than that, the only thing to really note here is that I just took a left on the minimap, and that was to go into this room to open a treasure coffer. Now, I'm going to talk about these treasure coffers really quickly. I spoke about them in my previous guide, but if you haven't seen it, you might not know what they do. The treasure coffers in this game, in at least the low-level dungeons, at least the mid-level dungeons, they have a chance at dropping some dungeon-specific loot. At the very low levels like this, it's usually pieces known as Ethereal Pieces, and those pieces are usually accessories and belts and things like that. So it's just additional loot. So you open them, you have a chance at getting these Ethereal Pieces, which is just a chance at more loot, really. That's all you can really look at it as. As you can see, we just got 2 pieces of loot, and I just won one right there, and I'm going to equip it right before we go into the boss. So again, this boss, very similar to the first boss. It's just the guy on the altar, and it's 3 imps now. Nothing too spectacular. All you need to do, just handle it the exact same way. Your tank will take a little bit more damage because there'll be one additional monster in the arena, but other than that, it is the exact same fight. There's nothing more you really need to know about this fight other than kill the imps. When the demon spawns, kill him. So while we're killing the demon, I'm going to go back to the Ethereal Pieces. The Ethereal Pieces aren't as good as some of the other loot you can get in the dungeon. For example, if you get like an ethereal, how do you want to say, body piece, and you end up getting the set body piece from the dungeon. The set body piece in most aspects will probably be better. It's one item level higher, and we'll talk about item levels in a different video, don't worry. So, killing the demon here. One thing to note, if you are a gladiator, I don't believe, warrior might have their stun by now, or marauder might have their stun by now, is that you can actually stun condemnation with shield bash, and you won't have to move at all. It's a little bit weird the time since shield bash sits on the global cooldown, but for marauders, if you have brutal swing at this point, it's pretty easy to just pick it off and not get hit by it, and not even have to move one little bit. So, really, just open all the treasure coffers was the point I was trying to get to before. It doesn't hurt, and you usually get a lot of extra EXP from doing it because you have to go out of your way and kill monsters. And even though at this level, doing fates and doing dungeons is about the same experience, I can't say the same thing for the later dungeons. But there's not. See, the thing is these lower level dungeons, this whole part with the trash mobs, there's not much to say, and this is sped up. This is really sped up, this footage. In fact, my video recorder won't actually even let me speed it up anymore. But here's the pull I can actually say something about. As you can see here, there's 2 ranged monsters, and none of them give a crap about what you do. Pretty much, there's no other way of saying it. I just keep doing a combo and switching to the other one while flash spamming in between them while I'm killing the melee. There's really no other way for you to handle that when you get to a situation like that. So don't panic and just do what seems right with those. Just grab them, just move between them. You just have to be a little bit creative with this one. I ran into this room. We're going to get this treasure coffer right here. As the tank, I'm just showing them where all the treasure coffers are. Always follow the tank. General dungeon 101 right there. Just always follow the tank. Even if he's going away you don't want to go. Just don't take the time to complain. Say, I don't want to go that way. Just follow the tank. It'll be over soon enough. Don't worry. Unless the tank gets lost. But it's pretty hard to get lost in these dungeons. So, as you can see right here, we're coming up to the second to last boss. Before you can even fight that boss in there, there's a room farther along that you have to deal with. And this is actually I'd say the only room in the game where it's sort of understandable for people to take a lot of damage, prior to the last boss at least. So as you can see when we run in here, there's 4 mobs grouped up. There's 2 casters and there's 2 melee. I highly recommend grabbing the melee, running into caster range, and spamming an AoE that will hit them all so that you can actually tank them all. Once that's out of the way, even though my party didn't do it in this order, I do recommend that the mages go down first. They hit a lot harder than the 2 melee. Excuse me. I'm a little sick right now. So, we didn't do it that way, but that's the way I would recommend doing it, just because if you're an undergeared tank for this, they can hit pretty hard. So, you open this thing, and bam, now you're on to the second to last boss. It's 4 imps and that guy, and then the demon is going to spawn. Again, this is nothing spectacular. They're just going to leave this sped up. And there's not much to say here. It's the same fight, again, but with an extra imp. This can sometimes get a little bit chaotic, though, since the imp's on the right-hand side. It can sometimes take a while to walk over to the tank. I don't recommend really healing or anything, or doing any AoE, really, as a DPS or a healer, until they do that. Other than that, though, this fight is exactly the same. It's really weird to just run into 3 fights that are so exactly the same, because I can't even mention the different mechanics other than the imp. But it is what it is. You know, so there's not much I can do about it. After you defeat this boss, you'll get the treasure coffer, and you'll have to open these 2 orbs. Once you open these 2 orbs, you'll actually get to the last boss, who, believe it or not, has some mechanics. I mean, it's very similar to the last boss in Sastasha, and not mechanically, but I mean in the fact that there's really only one big mechanic you have to deal with. There's not multiple mechanics. You won't really have to worry about multiple mechanics until Copperbell Mines. That's really where they start introducing the idea of more than one mechanic. So this boss is a flare. Just to note a few things, he does have an AoE paralyze move that you'll want to step out of, and he does primarily cast spells, so he does magic damage for the most part. He's pretty easy to drag around, though. He's much nicer in walking up to you than some other casters are. But for the most part, when the fight starts, you'll just walk up to him and you'll just fight him, no big deal. And you'll find that the first mechanic of this boss is actually very similar to all of the other you know, mini bosses, I guess you could call them, in the dungeon. So at some point an imp will spawn, and you have to just run over and kill it. This is the first transitional phase you'll have to deal with the flare, and the flare becomes completely immune to damage until you kill the imp. As you can see, we have a party member who doesn't know that, and I believe I typed it out before the boss started. I can't actually read chat windows right there. If not, I feel like I'm going to tell them very, very soon, because that definitely made the first imp take longer than it needed to. Now I'm just going to, because we have all range, I'm just trying to drag the flare over to a better spot. So I knew all the enemies were going to spawn right here because I've done this fight before. So now he's summoning a bunch of AoE enemies, and you have one imp to deal with. So you're going to want to gather them all up and just deal with them. I did tell my group beforehand that they could limit break the final set of ads, and our Thaumaturge actually limit break the second set of ads. That was not the final set of ads. Here's the AoE paralyze that you'll have to deal with. I just shield bash, you know, I shield lob while he's doing that. And the ads are all really weak. You don't actually need an AoE limit break to deal with them, but your tank definitely needs to pick them up as soon as possible. I'd say that pretty much any AoE is sufficient to kill them. If you're a Marauder, it's beyond easy to deal with. So as you can see, there are now 2 imps. If we were to kill that one over there, this one would then make him immune. So we're just going to kill all of them. We're going to have the Thaumaturge run up and spam some Blizzard 2 just to kill them. Just, you know, fire 2. AoE them down a little bit. And I'm going to run over to the other imp. And after you kill this final set of ads, it's really just hold them still, dodge the paralyze, and the fight is over, guys. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, favorite, subscribe, and share for more Final Fantasy XIV content. Feel free to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. You can ask me questions there regarding the game. So, you know, specific, you know, theory crafting, strategies, things like that. Not towards some of the end game stuff, but yeah, you know, if it's like Chimera, Hydra, I don't mind sharing. But anyway, guys, other than that, thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.